Good morning, baseball wildlifers. How's everybody doing? Happy Monday to you. Hope you're staying dry. If you're in the northeast, or northwest, as we like to call it, it is pouring rain the last couple of days. Trying to stay dry. But one man who is always dry with his humor and wit is Joey Buchholz, and he is here to talk about the Utopian Baseball Universe. What's going on in that world this week, last week, and anything else that he may have of interest in the baseball world. And we'll also be firing 5 questions for Joey. It's a popular segment. And we're going to get to know more about Joey later on. But first, let's get to know more about the Utopian Baseball Universe. Joey, take it away.
So, again, thanks to Stan for having me on the show. In the Utopian Baseball Universe, we've got 30 games left in a regular season. So tonight we kick off games between the North and the East Division and the South and the West Division. We've had quite a shakeup in the standings in the last couple 6-7 days. The Atlanta Braves have lost 10 straight games and find themselves looking up at the Durham Bulls and the Tampa Bay Rays. So they're still in it, of course, but 10 straight losses as they open a series against the Giants tonight. Hank Aaron versus Barry Bonds. That's going to be huge. The Reds continue to be the best team in the universe right now, 78-48, 30 games over 500. They have a game lead on the Indians. Both of those teams are in Canada, starting series tomorrow. In the East Division, the Red Sox have caught up with the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays have lost 14 of 16. Red Sox just took 2 or 3 from the Brewers. So they are deadlocked right now with 30 games left in the East. They're going to play each other in September. That's going to be a huge series. And in the West, the Giants have a game lead on the Padres. There's about 5 or 6 teams still in the hunt in the West. Today we're celebrating the 1927 World Series between the Pirates and Yankees. We're going to have a special telecast at 3 o'clock talking about that series. We're going to simulate today's game between the Pirates and Yankees on Xbox. Monday Night Baseball tonight, we got Twins and Red Sox. Really good pitching matchup. Johan Santana versus Pedro Martinez. Pedro Martinez right now second in the universe in ERA at 2.51. That's going to be really exciting. And then I promised you, Stan, an update on yesterday's Bob Gibson versus Sandy Koufax matchup. Before I do that, do you have the result for that poll? It was really close when I
Hold on. We'll get the latest updated version. And I was closer than I thought. I thought Koufax was going to run away with it. Let me see what, as of now, the results are.
I think the last I checked, it was actually dead even.
Yeah, it's amazing. Bob Gibson, like I said, we had this discussion before on your show. Bob Gibson is really loved by baseball fans, and Sandy Koufax is near godlike. So let's see what the latest is on this. Oh, shoot. There you go. Boy, nothing like dead air, huh, Joey? This is where your singing skills come in.
Oh, man, way too early in the day.
They'll wake the neighbors at least.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready? It's still a dead heat at 21-21. It's like blackjack, 21-21. So, folks, I'm going to put a comment here. I'm going to update it. So, those of you who haven't voted yet, please do. We got to figure this out because it's a dead heat here. But in the baseball universe, there had to be a winner. So, who was it, Joey?
Well, the funny thing is, you would guess that there would have been a winner, but we also had a dead heat, if you will. Both pitchers went 8 innings yesterday. Both pitchers gave up 3 runs. Koufax struck out 6. Gibson struck out 5. But the game ended up going extra innings. And in the 10th inning yesterday, Stan Musial with a 3-run double off Ron Perinoski as the Cardinals swept the Dodgers in L.A. They find themselves only 6 games back in the South right now. But Gibson's Koufax basically was a dead heat till the end. And this is the only time they play each other in the regular season because the Cardinals are in the South Division, Dodgers are in the West. The way we do our schedule is you play 12 division games against everyone, and then everyone outside of your division, you play a 3-game series every year, and you alternate cities each year. So last year they played at Busch Stadium. This year they played in LA. Next year, of course, they'll go back to St. Louis. But that's the only time you're going to be able to see Koufax versus Gibson in 2021, unless they were to meet in the postseason. So just like your poll, we did not have a definitive winner between Koufax and Gibson yesterday. And maybe that's the way it needs to be between these two iconic pitchers. But yeah, I'd be interested to see how the poll ends up as we remind people that it's still out there.
So the debate is not settled. It will go on and on forever. We thought we had the answer, but neither you or I can provide that answer to the baseball world. Well, carry on. The one matchup I'm interested in is the battle of ex-Met pitchers, Santana against Pedro Martinez. Both were highly anticipated when it came to the Mets, and I think Santana was the better Met overall, but unfortunately both suffered injuries. So I'm interested to see who wins that one. You'll have to update us on, I guess, Friday. Well, you're updated every day. So there's a cue to promote Joey's site. He updates this every day on his site, Utopian Baseball Universe. So if you're not a member, please join. And anything else going on that you want to talk about before we get to the 5 questions, or anything going on baseball-wise?
Well, our Mets got a victory yesterday. I see a lot of people in all the baseball groups that we belong to saying, oh, we're going to give up on the season. I never give up on a Mets season. Until I see that they're mathematically eliminated, anything can happen. I know they're 7 games out, but look at the Padres. They're not even in the wild card right now. The Cincinnati Reds have overtaken the Padres as the second wild card in the National League. Again, I'm not giving up on the season. We got a big series with the Giants kicking off tomorrow. If we can, somehow figure out a way to take 2 or 3 in that series, I still think we can right the ship. We just have to believe. Either way, I'm very excited for 2022 as we start getting DeGrom healthy, get Syndergaard back. Lindor, he's going to figure it out. He's still a top 5 talent. I'm not saying he's a top 5 producer right now, but the guy is an unreal talent. We got Pete Alonso. The future, I still think, looks bright with Uncle Stevie in the New York Mets.
Yeah, well, it's going to be exciting because Baez returned yesterday, and Lindor's due to return sometime this week. So I think coming into this season, we just wanted meaningful September games. So come Labor Day, if we're 4 or 5 out, there's still hope. And we're just hope there's dope. So you never say never. And hopefully Baez and Lindor, let's be honest, it's better seeing them than some of the substitute players. No knock on them, but they have flair and they have excitement. The fact that Syndergaard will be returning will be extra juice for the ball club too. And now I'm hearing DeGrom will pitch sometime in September, regardless of whether or not they're in or out of the race. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that, but they just want to see how he is going into the offseason. And we'll see. It should be fun. But like I said, after the Giants, we have 2 weeks of Marlins and Nationals baseball. So we can make up some ground, hopefully. But the Braves, unlike your Utopian Baseball Universe Braves, have been red hot.
Absolutely.
So hopefully they get to cool off a little bit. And we'll just see what happens from there. So we're down to almost a little more than a month, and it'll be fun. I'm excited. I'm always excited. Every time they win a game, I'm excited. So I'm excited after yesterday's game. The worst thing possible would have been coming home with a 4-game sweep. So any win is a positive thing in my book. So we'll take it home, and hopefully we can build on it from there.
Sounds good.
All right. Now, if you want to, we can go straight to the Ask Joey 5 questions if you like, unless you have something else.
No, I mean, I think baseball related, MLB related, the Brewers, they're still playing really good baseball. They have a series tomorrow kicking off. I'm not even sure who it's with. I think it's Cincinnati. They've got an 8.5 game lead on the Reds. Like I said, the Reds are in that wild card hunt right now, so they have something to play for. I had my 2 fantasy football drafts on Saturday. I don't want to bore your group with details on that, but I think I did.
No, this is an open forum, Joey. This is Joey's moment in the sun The world wants to know about Joey, not just my 5 questions. I was actually going to ask you that. How did the draft go?
So one league is a keeper league. So I actually came into the draft with Josh Allen, Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, and Julio Jones. So when you actually get down to drafting the players after the keepers it's pretty thin. My first pick was Robert Woods. I ended up getting Baker Mayfield. I'm a big Browns fan. I got Baker Mayfield as my backup quarterback. A couple of sleepers. In my other league, I had the second pick overall, and I took Josh Allen again. Derrick Henry was the first pick in that draft. I took Allen. I actually did something very unorthodox. In the second and third rounds, I took tight ends. I took Darren Waller and George Kittle. So now I have the two of the top 3 tight ends every week in a scoring system that only gets points on touchdowns. So I'm going to be thin at running back, possibly thin at receiver, but I should be, the top tight end producer and the top, one of the top quarterback producers in the league. I got Justin Tucker at kicker, so I'm looking to compete. One of my leagues goes back 29 years. We started it about a month after Reggie White signed with the Packers, and then the other league we started about 4 years ago. It's a WWE themed league where we actually play for a different championship belt every year. So I'm excited for that season for the NFL to start for the fantasy.
Kind of sounds like the XFL.
Yeah,
That was a little bit wrestling oriented. Wasn't McMahon the owner of that league for a spell? I think so.
Yeah, so the XFL actually tried twice. They actually in 2001, I think it was 2001, they played one season, and then right before the pandemic, they started a season, and COVID wiped that out. Now, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson actually just bought the XFL in bankruptcy court, and there's going to be a third incarnation of the XFL in about 15 months. They're going to do, I think it's fall of 2022. There's going to be a third attempt at the XFL.
So compete against the NFL then in the fall. That's interesting.
It's going to be a different format. I think instead of having like a regular like a season, it sounds almost as if it's going to be almost like a reality show. So instead of like a football league. So I guess there's going to be more information on that coming soon.
Yeah. Who was that player? The first, he hate me. What was his name?
I think that was Rod Smart.
Yeah. What was his jersey?
He hate me.
He hate me. Yeah, that's a classic. I was never able to get one online because that's my motto. He hate me. But that's good. That's good. Now, are you one of these guys that's intense year round with the fantasy? Because I know players, I'm in leagues sometimes off and on all the time. By the time the midseason comes, they're just fading away. They lose interest. Are you as much into it in week 16? Well, now it'll be 17. Depending on your league, sometimes the playoffs begin on week 17, I guess. Are you as much into it year round as you are in the beginning when you draft the players?
Absolutely. Actually, one of my biggest pet peeves is when I bring in people to play and they quit after 6 weeks because they're 1-5. We actually, in both of our leagues, we give the owners incentive to do well year round. It's a way we've structured our draft order for the next year. So the way we've done it the last couple of years is each owner has 3 weeks throughout the regular season where their point total for that week is added to the other 2 to determine draft order for the next year. So you could be 1-10, and if one of your main event games is week 12 and you score well, you're going to have a higher pick next year. So we try to keep people invested all year, and we've got a really good group of owners going forward. We brought in 4 new owners this year. Geeker Cruzen, Cody Jones, Jessica Bailey, and John Boyd are all new members that I've actually met through the Utopian Baseball Universe. So they're all going to be competing in fantasy football as well. I play fantasy baseball, but I don't really enjoy it because I don't need to play fantasy baseball, to enjoy baseball, but if I'm being honest, fantasy football really keeps me interested in the NFL year round.
Well, you know it's huge because during the games they have that ticker with all the updates on the fantasy stats that you need. So the NFL is basically thriving on fantasy football and gambling. That's my bottom line, and I'm sticking with it. So it's almost like it's a participatory sport for those who want to invest money or take a chance with their money on the sport. Whereas baseball is basically just baseball. It's tough to bet on baseball. It's for the excitement factor on betting isn't the same as in football. So
Exactly.
and if football, I mean, anything can flip flop on a given moment too. So it's a lot of yay and then cheering and then booing like a minute later. So I think that's the thrill of football, and that's why people love to gamble on it and play fantasy and everything. It's my opinion. I'm sticking with it. But it is everyone I know who's basically a sport fan. I would say 80% are in fantasy football. It's amazing how that took off. And I was actually in one of the first baseball before they even called it fantasy baseball. It was rotisserie baseball. And I was in the third. I was in the third league ever formed in Putnam County in New York, and it was funny. This was before the internet and everything else. So guys were coming with computer printouts and everything. We actually came in second place. We were called the Rain Men. I don't know if you remember the movie with Rain, Dustin Hoffman. We took that was a popular movie at the time, and we were the Rain Men. And we had two other guys on my team, and we took it pretty seriously. But after that year, I was just burnt out. I couldn't do it anymore because you had to make waiver transactions and everything every Monday morning. It was a grind. I was actually glad the baseball season was over. But it was fun. That one year I gave it a shot, and it just blossomed after that. And fantasy football has just blown baseball away as far as popularity is concerned. So,
well, the irony of how I started fantasy football. So Reggie White signed with the Packers. So there was, a lot of interest around here in football at the time. But I was actually listening to a Brewers game in 1993, and they were in a rain delay. And it was going to be like at least 2 hours before the game started again. And the studio show that was doing a show during the rain delay was talking about fantasy football, how it's kind of a hybrid of rotisserie baseball and fantasy baseball, and they started talking about rules and how fantasy football works, and I was writing it down. I was, I think, 16, 17 at the time. I was writing down all these things, and I called my friend the next day. I said, were you listening to the Brewers game yesterday? We should start a fantasy football league. And we actually drafted like 6 weeks later. Our first year, we only had 6 participants, and now we're up to 14. And some of the participants that joined me in the 90s are still with me today.
Wow, that's good. That's good. So how does the playoffs work for you guys?
So we have I have 2 leagues. One league is 6 teams, starts week 15. So you have 2 wild card games, 2 semifinals, and a championship. And then in the league that goes back to 1993, we have 4 playoff teams, and I guess that starts week 16 now. And then we just have a semifinals and a final. It's just 1 week a championship. I know some leagues do like 2 weeks where you add up the weeks, but we just have the 1 week. Last year's champion, Nick Korth, it's a second championship in the 29 year history, and then brothers Andrew and Justin Pfeffer won the scoring league in our third year of that belt themed league, and they're looking to defend this year.
Now, we like to focus on Joey on this show. So how many championships has Joey won since he's been in fantasy football?
So the first championship I ever won in 2004, I won a public league. It was just me and that friend that created my fantasy league. We joined a public league, and I won that in 2004. In 2009, I won both of the leagues that I run, the one that we're doing now, and then an older version of the scoring league. I won both leagues on the same weekend. And then in 2018, I won this league. So the league that goes back 29 years, I've won that twice. I've won a scoring league once, and then I won a public league in 2004. There's a fifth league that I won that no longer exists anymore. It was called With a Little Help, and it was a friend of mine who has muscular dystrophy, and it was a league. We've known each other since 1994. He had a guy drop out of the league, not of life. He dropped out the day before the draft, and he called me, and I won it all. And that was in 2019. They didn't have a league last year because of COVID, and they haven't done it this year. So I guess that would make it 5 fantasy football championships for Uncle Joey.
All right, that's an impressive resume. Very good. Okay, now, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think we're good. I'm excited for these questions. One baseball related, my understanding is.
Yes, but that'll be coming up later. But due to the inclement weather, that has to be postponed. I don't want the questions getting wet, so we'll pick this up next week. No, I'm only kidding. Here we go. Here's the first one. Drum roll, please.
All right.
Now, you were talking about fantasy football, and you were getting excited about pizza and wings. Now, I don't know if that actually happened, but this is a motivation for my first question. Do you like pizza toppings? If so, what is your favorite topping?
I'm pretty basic when it comes to pizza toppings. I usually go sausage, pepperoni. If I'm going to throw a vegetable on there, it's going to be either mushrooms or green pepper.
Yeah, I actually am a big fan of plain pizza, but my wife always likes toppings, and the toppings we always go to are pepperoni and sausage. Well, I think in America are ranked 1 and 2. So they're the standards, I guess, pepperoni and sausage. So you fit right into the numbers there.
Yeah.
Now, you were talking about buffalo wings. Now, I know you're a big hot sauce guy, but when it comes to wings, do you like them hot, medium, or mild?
That's a great question. I just like all kinds of sauces. Usually when I go out, I'll have like a medium because I don't trust a hot. If I've never had a hot sauce in a restaurant setting, I'm self-conscious about like crying or like having my nose stuffed. At home, I'm more inclined to try a hotter stuff in private, but in a restaurant setting, I'll usually go medium. At home, it tends to skew closer to the hot sauces.
Yeah, I kind of like it hot, but like you, I tear up. And when I used to wear contact lenses, it always cleared my contacts up pretty well. But in the mid 90s, New York was in a wing craze. And I think that's when wings just swept the nation. And there were establishments that just specialized in wings. And they would have your typical Beyond Hot, your nuclear, super nuclear. And I had the hottest one at one of these places. Oh my God, my lip was numb for 2 days. So I never recovered from that. We ordered like 20. It was like 5 lists. I ordered like 20. I think we only finished like 7. We both went home in pain. But in a perfect world, I do like them hot. And I do like my wings. Now, although they're very expensive these days because of the chicken shortage. I don't know if you've picked up on that.
Yeah, we had that in the Midwest. We actually went to a Buffalo Wild Wings, and they didn't have any wings. They had boneless, which of course is not a wing. They had fillets, but for like 2 weeks, you couldn't even order them.
Yeah, tough days indeed. Hopefully the wings come back. I'm flying back into our life. All right, number 3. Now, I think we've even spoken about this personally, that you were, or maybe one of my fun stuff group about Curb Your Enthusiasm. And you seem to light up whenever I mention Larry David or Curb Your Enthusiasm. So my third question to you is, besides Larry David, who's the big kahuna, who is your favorite Curb Your Enthusiasm character?
Oh, such a great question. You got to go Leon, don't you?
Leon is good. Leon is good, but that's not my answer. But if you want to explain why Leon is yours, we'll hear you first.
Well, Leon was added to the show in, I want to say, I don't know, season 6, 7. And I thought like that would just be the storyline for the year, but they've kept him on the show. He's played by JB Smoove, which I'm sure is not his real name, but he's one of the top funniest men on the planet. He used to be a writer for Saturday Night Live. I got to go Leon. I mean, there's not really a wrong answer. Susie, Jeff, Richard Lewis, so many options, but I'm going to say Leon is my number 2.
That's a good answer. I love Leon because you just can't picture it happening in Larry David's real world, which makes it even more funny in the show. So you got to love him. I'm going to throw a curveball on you on this one with my answer. It's Marty Funkhauser. I love Marty. And one of my favorite all-time episodes is when they go to the Dodger game. Larry has to be at the Dodger game, and
Yes.
Marty's father passes away, and he sees the empty seat down there. The seat is spoken for. It's just a classic episode. Folks, if you haven't seen it, check it out. I think it's on Amazon Prime or something like that. But just the way Marty's humor and dry sense of humor, it's always playing. Everything always seems to go wrong for Larry when Marty's in the house. So that he's the perfect foil for Larry in that regard.
Yeah, love it.
Okay, now we know you're a Brewer and Met fan. But besides the Mets and Brewers, is there another ML team that you have a soft spot for?
So, as I get older, I identify myself more as, just a baseball fan. Of course, I love the Mets and Brewers. The first team I ever really loved was actually the Cubs. When we got cable in 1984, that's the first thing the cable guy put on was a Cubs game. I think they were playing the Phillies. My grandma and I watched the Cubs home games pretty much every day from 1984 through 1990. So there will always be a soft spot for the Cubs, even though they're in the same division now with the Brewers. And I've got a lot of ties to Cleveland. And since I guess the Cubs, Brewers, and Mets are all National League teams, Cleveland has always been the American League team I root for, but also the Red Sox. The Red Sox are actually have a little bit of a family tie. My grandfather was second cousins with Tony Candeliero, and
Wow.
when Clay Buchholz threw his no-hitter for the Red Sox, I think my daughter was like 2, and even then she thought that was cool that a Buchholz threw a no-hitter in the major leagues. So I guess because I like the number 5, my top 5 teams I guess would be Mets 1, Brewers 2, I guess we'll say Indians 3, Red Sox 4, and I really don't root for the Cubs these days, but I have such great memories that I'm gonna put them at 5.
Yeah, Cubs are one of my top 5 teams because in my younger days before I was married, I'd go ballpark gallivanting across the country. People always poo-poo Wrigley Field. Now, I'm sure it's become a lot more commercialized than when I went in the 80s, but it was always a fun experience there. And it was just playing day baseball all the time. I just said, well, if I ever could come back in another life and be a baseball fan, I'd grow up in the Chicago area and just go to day games at Wrigley Field. But that was back then. Things may be different now, but the Cubs always had a soft spot in my heart, too. Okay, now question number 5. We're going to put you on the spot here.
All right.
Do you enjoy these 5 questions each week? If so, why?
I really do. We do the same thing in the Utopian Cafe where I ask you 5 questions. I like the spontaneity of it. I like going outside of the realm of baseball. Of course, I could talk baseball. You and I could talk baseball all day. But yeah, I mean, you get me talking about food. You get me talking about Larry David. These are things I enjoy talking about. And of course, I love the segment.
That's good. All right, we'll have you on next week after that answer. Now we had our good friend Salvatore Tartaglia piping in as usually does. He's good. I think he hops on every YouTube cast there is. But he actually had salutations for you. He said, I can't understand how Joey puts out so many games on top of other ventures, podcast hosting and guest appearances. Do you have an answer for Salvatore?
Yes, I do. And I work from home. So I'm a caregiver for my mom. And so most of my work is actually here in the home. And when I do my shows is usually before she gets up or after she goes to bed or when she naps. I also have a part-time job as a delivery truck uh, unloader. So when the truck comes to the store, I unload it. But that's usually early in the morning or late at night. I'm a night owl. I do a lot of content between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. A lot of the posts you see, you know how you schedule your posts in
Yeah.
a fun group? I do the
Hmm.
same thing. I write it Sunday night. You see it Monday morning. So I'm not writing it as you see it. I'm usually writing it a day before. The content within the Utopian Baseball Universe group is usually written 24 hours prior. So, like today's Monday results were written last night. I just present them in real time to create a story. I do one show a day within the group, and it's usually 10 minutes long. And then I do 4 to 5 Xbox streams a week. And again, usually that's when the patient is sleeping or uh, not needing any assistance at the time. So it does seem like a lot of content, but it really is not that much.
Okay, and then I guess Salvatore was talking about the 1927 World Series, which you're highlighting this week, today actually, right?
Yeah,
And
we'll
he was
talk.
saying that that was the Yankees' first World Series sweep, so be interesting to see what happens there. And then he mentioned that he voted for Bob Gibson only because at the time it was 59 to 60% advantage Sandy. So I wonder if Bob got a few sympathy votes there, and that's why it's tied up. Maybe Sandy actually was the winner, but in Salvatore's eyes, they're both A1 and A2. Now,
I actually voted for Gibson myself. I think Gibson, like Koufax was more dominant for a shorter period of time, but Gibson I think had a longer. I mean, obviously we know Koufax retired at age 29, but the reason I chose Gibson was because he was dominant for longer. And if I'm picking one game, I think I want Gibson pitching that game. But you can't go wrong with either. My goodness.
well, I agree. And the beautiful thing about that is they were both Hall of Fame pitchers, but they also rose to the occasion in the postseason. I think Sandy Koufax pitched like a complete game masterpiece to win Game 7 in the World Series one year on 2 days rest, which is just phenomenal. And it's probably one of the reasons why he hurt himself. But he pitched a game for the ages, and they're both big game pitchers. So it's you go with, like Salvatore says, A1 or A2.
Yeah.
Now, a Facebook user, I don't have his name, says, love knockout pools even more than fantasy. Hate when I have players going against my Jets. It ruins football for me. Every game is so important. So, have you ever done anything besides fantasy football, like a knockout pool or anything?
Yeah, we did at work years ago. We used to have, they called it a losers bracket, where you had to pick a team to lose an NFL game every week, but you couldn't choose the same team more than once. So, like if you thought the Jets were going to be bad, you could say, okay, they're going to lose week 1, but now I got to pick another team week 2, and then whoever lasted the longest would win. Whatever the dollar amount was. To be honest, outside of fantasy football, which I really do enjoy. Um, I don't play fantasy basketball. I only play fantasy baseball as a favor to a friend, like if he needs a guy. Most of my free time, as it relates to fantasy, I guess would be the fiction I'm creating in the Utopian Baseball Universe. I just don't have the time outside of what I'm doing to be in a ton of leagues. I don't gamble on baseball. I certainly would never gamble on baseball. I haven't gambled on football in probably 16 years. I'm getting to a point where I just like to watch the games and, rock some wings, have some pizza.
Yeah, well, my thought on gambling is, and the sports leagues are going to bed with the online casinos, is they wouldn't be offering gambling if it was a losing proposition for them. So in order for them to be winners at this and offer it to the public means the public is losing. Now, granted, I've gambled in the past, I've lost, and it's not fun. It makes it miserable, and you're just basically waiting for the game to end. You're not enjoying the game. So you're just waiting for the result. You're not waiting to see what happens in the game. And because of that, I don't do it either because I'd rather enjoy the game. Like the last couple of Super Bowls were so up and down. It was great as a fan not having money on it. But I can just imagine if you had money on it, it would have drove you crazy. Baseball is even more frustrating. I mean, you never think an underdog's going to win, but an underdog wins all the time. And then when you bet on an underdog, they get creamed 10-2. So it's just the way it is. So my advice to everyone is don't do it, and you're doing the right path by not doing it and just enjoying the games. So that, I guess, will wrap up another segment on Monday with our Utopian Baseball Universe. And as always, it keeps getting better and better if you ask me. And again, we're here Mondays at 8:30. We'll always talk Utopian baseball, what's hot in baseball itself, Major League Baseball. And Joey will always have 5 questions thrown his way. So make it a regular fixture on your viewing habit. If you can't watch it, it's archived on Baseball Way of Life. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to that. And I always return the favor to Joey on Friday on his YouTube channel, which is Utopian Baseball Universe. And we switch roles, and he fires 5 questions at me, and he gives you an update, and we just talk baseball like we do here, as always. So, Joey, have a good week. And I know you're a night owl because I notice on Fun Stuff group when I do those match game questions, your answers always come in like at 1 o'clock in the morning. So Joey's not making this stuff up. But he's a night owl here to serve your needs on the Utopian Baseball Universe. He does it round the clock. So check him out on his group. He'd love it if you join. It's on Facebook, Utopian Baseball Universe. And Joey, as always, a pleasure.
Thank you, Stan. We'll see you Friday. Everyone have a great week. Again, love being on here. Great baseball group, Baseball Way of Life. Let's get Stan to 20,000 at some point.
Oh, whoa. There was a guy on my Mets baseball group was giving away this thing. Like I had 20 members. Let's get to 1,500. He's giving away. I'm like at 150. So I take it one member at a time. I'm happy with 10.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, and I don't mean this as a bad thing for anybody, but the more and more people, like when you get a deluge of people joining the group, a lot of times it's not the people you want on the group, because in the last couple of days, I've had to get rid of people, and I'm very lenient. I let people say anything, they can put me down or whatever, as long as it's not personal, like stupid question, blah, 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 I just let it go. They'll always be that way. That's the way life will be. But in like the past 10 days, I've gotten 3 Facebook violations, where people are just dropping stuff at other people like that, and that bothers me.
Yeah.
So I'm more quality than quantity in that regard. So sometimes having 20,000, if it's not quality, isn't as good as 10,000. So I'm happy with the 10 now. We'll take it day at a time. But eventually, I'd like to get to 20,000. And I know Joey's shooting for 2,000, then 3,000, and 4,000, and 5,000. We'll get you there, Joey.
Well, my goal has always been 100% quality. So yeah, we're at 1,026 right now. But I actually had 2 requests yesterday to join where they were clearly fake accounts. You just look at the profile picture. They didn't answer the questions.
That's always a cautious sign right there when they don't answer the questions.
Yeah, they didn't even belong to any baseball groups. They belong to like a bunch of, just fake stuff. It's just like, no, you're out. So yeah, we're just looking for quality. We, like I said, we did this group last year for 61 people, and we're at over 1,000 now. But I just want quality, whether we have 60, 500, 1,000, 10,000, just quality contributors that enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a good thing, because I had this. I never realized it because I'm not on there. Like you gave my Wizard of Oz secret away. I schedule a lot of this stuff. Then I get reported content by fellow members. You get people spamming you like buy Bitcoin and all that. Oh my! Yeah. When I say, Jesus. And again, I fall victim to it because they didn't necessarily answer the questions, but they're in other baseball groups. So it's not just me; it's everybody getting hit with this, and it sucks after a while, but you deal with it. It's part of the program, and we just deal with it. Yeah. But Joey, one guy we'll never get rid of in the group is you. And we look forward to seeing you next week. And don't forget, Friday I'll be on Joey's show.
Yep.
Sound good,
time.
Joey?
Yep, same time Friday, 8:30, Utopian Cafe, 8:30 Eastern, Stan Phillips. Again, thanks, Stan, thanks for having me, Stan. It is starting to rain here, so I'm going to head back in.
Every friggin' time Joey wants to end the broadcast, suddenly there's rain showers. But that's okay. I can deal with it. At least he doesn't outright say he wants to leave. So you stay dry, Joey, and we'll talk on Friday.
All right, have a good one, Stan.
You too.